Hey gang, this is going to be a Conan the Barbarian speedrun walkthrough. I wanted to do just a talk about this game, why I speedrun it, some of the strats that I use, where I mess up, where I can improve, and basically just get all my thoughts out because I'd love to talk about this game more because I really enjoy it. I shouldn't, but I really do. So here we are. We are in a place where Conan definitely shouldn't be. Um, I think, to be honest, the story is fairly brief. But the first one we want to do, Conan has three different fighting styles. He has single-handed, basically sword and board, so you can you can steal people's shields in that mode. You can take their weapons. Um, what we're doing right now is dual wielding, so we are using two swords and right? Two swords? Yeah, I think you can get a sword and an axe, stuff like that, but you end up carving up your enemies very quickly. This mode definitely has the highest DPS, so you're putting out a ton of damage fairly quickly. And then we also have two-handed weapons, which are generally the slower attacks, but they do the most damage. And that's actually what we'll be using a majority of the game, because the damage is just ludicrous on one specific attack that you'll see later. So a big part of this speedrun is being able to manipulate enemies in ways that will allow you to reach the next area without taking damage. So these doors, if you take damage, as you saw earlier, while doing it, while opening it, you will get stopped. It's a lot of like stopping the enemies from stopping you from doing what you want. This is a red chest. This gives us access to red runes. Red runes are used to upgrade your abilities. We actually aren't going to be doing much of that because this speedrun does not require like any runes, any of Conan's skill trees, and we're going to be getting runes specifically in the two-handed tree. Here we have a statue guy. Statue guys are fairly weak in the beginning of the game, but all of these enemies, all these spirit enemies, you see them again, and they are much, much more difficult. Just not being super patient here, which is, it's funny, not triggered, but I am still used to, later in the game, that downward sword slash, that actually, it creates a shockwave and it does a fairly sizable amount of damage. So you might notice me like rolling all over the place. Conan has a dodge roll. It does, the invincibility on it's a little bit wonky, but it helps. It's really useful because you can use it to cancel the recovery on nearly any ability and continue that string. So what we're using now is called Black River Rage. It's XXYY. So that Y is that's the mercenary, but so it's XXY, and then I dodge, and you're able to follow up with the next Y. That next hard attack, so it's basically light attack, heavy attack, heavy attack. That last heavy attack does a boatload of damage and allows me to one-shot all of those spirit enemies. That's actually why we switched to two-handed weapons here. Once this is called King's Execution. This is the best move in the game as far as I'm concerned. It chunks bosses, it chunks enemies. It's that final blow is does a super crazy amount of damage. So here I attack a little too early. You're supposed to attack when the statue's right or left foot touches the ground. And I attack too quickly. Cool. So I think my best time for that is like a rough like 3:30 or something like that, maybe a little bit less. So this game does track your like the chapters, it tracks in-game time, but it doesn't account for deaths, I don't believe. So you can die and it just picks up the timing where the checkpoint was. I think that's how it works. Cool. So here we're at the Brachot Islands. The Brachot Islands are actually found in Conan lore. They are a safe haven of pirates, like this lady says. And Conan was a pirate for a time, so these isles are not unfamiliar to him. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a red rune chest. What we're going to be doing in this level is we're going to be, I think this is called the chance meeting. We are going to be avoiding almost every enemy, attempting to avoid a ton of enemies, and only picking up chests and saving damsels. So chests, I believe, net you 30 red runes. The small enemies give you 3. Big enemies give you, or medium enemies give you 5, and the captain enemies give you 10. So we're going to be avoiding all these guys in white shirts, and we're just going to go for the chests and, like I said, the damsels. So you'll notice that enemies, I think I mentioned this, they don't attack a ton. They will typically leave you alone until you are trying to do the thing you want to do. I mentioned that. So you'll see we can typically run away from everything in the game. We can typically try to run past things, but if they catch up to you and you're trying to leave the area, they will mess you up. They will make it their business to mess you up. In this area, you have to kill a certain number of enemies to find the captain enemy. What I want to do is I want to kill as many enemies as possible, as quickly as possible, so that the captain enemy comes out. The captain enemy, he drops, when you kill him, he drops a two-handed weapon. That's super useful for us. They have by far and away the strongest attacks, and they carve up enemies much more quickly than any other style of combat. You'll notice that I'm taking a bunch of damage from very annoying characters. You can parry, so and the parry options are freaking awesome. I love the blood and gore in this game. It's super fun. Here you can see that we've picked up. We just lopped off a bunch of dudes' arms, so there go his arms. It's hilarious. Cool. So we're still just hacking away, parrying, hoping to gosh that this captain enemy comes out sometime soon, because cool. So captain enemies, they are the most powerful enemies in the game, and they cannot be parried while their helmets are on. So typically what we want to do is attack them once, because you can't break through their block when you have this specific weapon set. And I think I try to parry him here, because parrying is quicker than just normal kills, but Waller's Leap takes a fairly long time. Cool. So we didn't mean to drink that. We meant to grab the, there you go. We meant to grab the two-handed sword. So here I immediately learn our first ability. It's called Fast Strike Finisher. It's a 3-hit attack. You notice that when we were using the one-handed sword, it took 6 different strikes. That one, it just takes 3. You cannot avoid that damage. There's an achievement that says make it through the level without taking any damage. This is not a good level for that, because you are forced to take damage there. You notice that I wasn't parrying. The Y parry for the two-handed weapons just take forever. You'll also notice that I just mastered a move there. So basically, the number of times that you actually finish an attack string will give you a certain percentage towards like mastering the move. Basically, that will net you a bunch of runes, a bunch of red runes, but it will also unlock not special, but it will unlock interesting. If you kill an enemy on the last hit of that string, you'll receive a bonus. So you may see me using, once mastered, there's a move called Uppercut. It's light. It's a light attack and then a heavy attack, so it's just a light attack and then a big uppercut swing. If you kill enemies with that attack, you get 5 green runes, which replenish your health. This is an unskippable cutscene with Akana. She is a pirate queen, basically. And if you're good at recognizing voices, you'll notice that Conan is voiced by the incomparable Ron Perlman of Hellboy fame. So, from here, We're
You'll come
just
with me.
talking to Akana. I really wish you could skip these
Strong
cutscenes,
words from a fair
but
lady.
we're going to go
Do
rescue
not
her
mistake me
crew.
for one of your helpless
You'll notice
maidens,
some of the
barbarian.
there's some weird stuff that kind of happens
Of
um,
course not.
when
After
you're
you.
doing triggered movements
We'll need men
cutscenes.
to
You're like
pilot the ship.
when you're trying to
Rescue my men,
do a thing to
barbarian. The crew will get us
move
off
the
this
story forward.
island.
You'll see it, I believe, a little bit later. But you're getting these guys out of cages, and if an enemy attacks you while you are doing that, you will put the cage door back on the guy, which is ridiculous. Captains, I for whatever reason I'm not attacking them optimally here.
He must be one of Akana's crewmen.
I'm not doing a terrible job, but that should be much, much easier. So there's a red rune chest back here. For whatever reason, this part takes me forever. I can't chop those freaking things. Look at this. I end up running up it. So the geometry in this game is really weird. You do not want to have to do that crawling animation that as Conan picks himself up. You want to avoid that whenever possible. It's slow, and that at that jump height, I should have been able to just make it onto the next level. So we're going to avoid all of the enemies on these catwalks for the most part. However, if we don't get rid of these enemies, we will not be able to free the captain dude, or excuse me, free the crewman. So I think right here, I throw it and then I put it back. It just magically appears back on. So you actually have to like get to the cutscene before. It's ridiculous. I had clearly thrown it off the edge. So we've rescued one crewman. There are two more. You'll notice that we are killing some enemies, and we're trying to hack them up easily. The guys wearing white, they take one heavy strike. That's sort of these horizontal strikes. That's just a useful way to get rid of them. We're going to avoid all of these enemies, and we're basically going to try to run as quickly as possible to the final crewman. So, dodging. You can also dodge just after recovery. That was awesome. Got all four of those dudes, and we typically, again, don't want to getting these guys all out of our way, because if we don't, they will end up attacking us as we free this guy. I was willing to take the risk here and get rid of it, despite the guy in white behind us. Cool. So here we've got another cutscene. This is actually the end of the level. You face 3 captain's enemies. Not very difficult at all. You just need to know how they attack. I should have thrown that guy. Throwing is actually like the easiest way to kill enemies. Obviously. You'll notice also, you haven't seen this yet, but later in the level there are giant spikes and things that are hanging out on the walls, on the palisades, and it basically allows you to like chop the heck out of, or excuse me, one-hit KO guys. You can throw them onto the spikes. So this is I don't know why I'm not doing. Okay, so there it is. So what you want to do to break your enemy's guards before they attack is you want to do the uppercut. Typically they have hit stun. They're able to get out of block stun or hit stun fairly quickly. What you do there is, for whatever reason, that 3-strike attack that I just did right there, that stops them from attacking. I don't really know why. So while they are like they're programmed to attack right after a guard break, you want to use your triple strike, your fast strike finisher, to stop them. So this part we're on to like the next level basically. I think this is called Pirate Raid, and this is our the first level with a boss. His name is Bone Cleaver. He is super easy, and there are a couple interesting things about it. But what we're gonna do first is this is a rune triumvirate. So there are 3 kinds. The health. There is armor power. Armor power is synonymous with magic. and there is the Song of Death. So we'll go over those things when we get to them. We want to avoid all the enemies here. I was just checking my runes, what I need for Gem Cutter. Gem Cutter is really, it's not super important, but it is really useful in taking out captains, and you'll see why once I am able to unlock it. So we avoided all of these enemies, and we actually have to take out almost all of these enemies here. Akana with her ship is sailing around. Look at the terrible. It doesn't look like a scary ship. It looks like there was supposed to be a woman there, and now there's like a baby's face with horns coming out of its eyes on its chest. I don't know, it's weird. So what we're going to do here, because we need to operate that ballista, we need to get rid of all these guys. So as you can see, throwing them is super easy. Also, Crom's Curse is a really easy way to get rid of these enemies. So we're going to move this, and then we are going to crank it. Because we are trying to do something like, you know, like open a door or do all this stuff, enemies will beeline to our position and try to take us out. So we're just going to finish cranking here. We've taken out all the enemies that are going to end up attacking us. What you need to do for these ships is you need to shoot the front, the middle, and the back, which is typically, like, if you don't know that, is a really frustrating experience. And then these doors actually blow off before Akana's ship even shoots it. So just another one of the many silly items that happens, many silly things that happens in this game. So here there are a bunch of enemies. We're going to dodge. I don't know why I killed that guy. I think every once in a while I just get kind of bloodlusty and I want to take dudes out. Archers are typically fairly useful to take out because they are, they can just annoy from a distance. And here the captain comes out, so we are going to attack. So that's what happens if you parry a captain when his hat is still on. So look, that big spark. I tried to do it again, did not. So I think I try here to get a dual-handed weapon. I believe that's a little bit faster. Oh, and that's right, I try to hit him in the face with this, but I hit the other dude. Cool, so we've got this. We're gonna wait. And we can get in 4 strikes with the two-handed weapon. With the dual-wielded weapons.
Let Crom judge you.
And there we go, we get Gweller's Leap. So that's kind of what I was looking for. It's fast and it's an easy way to get rid of captains.
Nice work,
We want his weapon. And then there is a captain enemy here which Akana is shooting. She's actually going to light him on fire. And we're just going to try to soften him up so we can kill him easily. This again, there's some spikes. So we want to make sure that we're throwing enemies onto spikes. I just threw him at a guy. Also, enemies become super docile once you have thrown them, or once you have grappled with another enemy. Here I try to move the this ballista so that these guys can't hit me, or that they'll never be within like striking distance. It doesn't always work, but I actually managed to get almost 2 shots off. That's right. Typically here, I was just using my fast strike finisher, the heavy strike finisher, so I just carved those dudes up really fast. Does this guy leave me alone? I think he does. So this is actually, I think, a big time save on my part here. I was able to get this without having to kill everybody, which is a big deal. That's really annoying, and you'll see I would have had to possibly get rid of all of these enemies before being able to continue on with the level. So luckily that didn't happen. Here there is a lady in waiting, as a damsel in distress, as well as a chest. So I believe that she gives you 60 red runes, and the chest gives you 30. So right there is a big 90, which is really, really useful. I get bloodlust here. How could you not? Look at all these dudes. So then I remember that I don't actually need to do that, and move on. All of these guys, killing them is useful in the fact that it doesn't take a ton of time, and it will get me closer to the King's Execution, which is the move I want before the before a certain point in the next level. But at the same time, so we've got Gem Cutter, great. And 140 runes to spare. So the next ability that we need is called King's Execution. It's that big two-handed downward strike. That's the one that we need. Basically, that's the only move we need to finish the game. So we are going to carve these guys up.
That should end your miserable life.
That is Gem Cutter. So Gem Cutter is a block-breaking attack, which is really useful. The second hit, the kick to the nuts, it actually stuns enemies. So really useful for the captain enemies who it allows you a free strike. Super cool. You're going to see me using it a ton on difficult enemies. We don't want to parry these guys. They take so little damage that the parry animation is, or excuse me, they take so much damage that the parry animation is kind of pointless. Oh, I love the way that looked. Just carved those guys up. So here we can run past the archers and the captain enemy. I have gotten this tree down a handful of times without having to fight these guys. It is very, very difficult to avoid them. They just, so there you go, you see that? That's basically softening him up. And then the captain actually follows you out here, which is a little bit frustrating. So that's the combo that I should be doing to get rid of enemies quickly. But I don't end up optimizing that for the rest of the captains in this level. So if I had actually like run over here to do this, those guys would have eaten me alive and chopped me up. I don't think you're never in danger of dying in this game from enemies, unless it's a boss. If you know what you're doing, that is. If you don't know what you're doing, this game could be punishing. But luckily, checkpoints are really forgiving. It's actually a really nice part of the game. If you are dying, you can bet that I think on medium, you get more health on respawn as well. So here what we want to do is we want to avoid that guy completely and hit the archer so that he doesn't shoot us as we're trying to open this door. And I'm mashing like crazy so that that guy doesn't bop me. Oh, that was close. Alright, so there's some weird camera stuff as I'm trying to move. So here, this is another portion where we try to avoid all these enemies. The problem with this is that a lot of these enemies actually come to fight. They actually make it all the way over here. So again, just what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to run to the left. I've actually gotten it so that I manipulate these enemies so that I hit them with some barrels, I knock some guys around, and I've actually gotten it so that I can... Oh, that guy, he recovered from the... But here we go. I try to do it, and then bop. So that was dumb. I was never going to be able to do it. This looks amazing. The Steps of Hell. It's probably my favorite parry. It actually cuts them in half, which is amazing. But now you notice all these dudes are coming back. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to take out as many of them as possible with our strong strikes. This hits a ton of enemies, and we want to stay away from the captain right now. You also notice I just got a giant health rune. So health runes are typically like they'll show up when you need them. Also, you'll notice I'm not using uppercut a ton. I should probably be using that. Purely because it's, crazy useful. But also because it will give me health. Okay, so now we're on to the last portion of the level. Oh, do I get through? Yes, I do. So that guy, wherever he was coming. He was coming. He knew that I was about to trigger that door. He's like, no, Conan. So here we're going to fight Bone Cleaver. He's in a big old arena. And this is just like, I remember when I saw this, I was like, this is a crappy game. So first, you walk in this big arena and you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. There's this big imposing guy up there. Conan's like, nah, you're not. And then the nipple shot. And then eyes. I actually thought that they didn't have enough money the first time I played this to not animate I didn't think they have enough money to animate facial expressions. Because why would you just show his eyeballs? What's the point of that? Why not just show his whole body? So, that aside, that was just silly. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to carve up these baby pirates as quickly as we can. And then we're going to use that wall covered in spikes just beneath Bone Cleaver to kill all of these medium level enemies. It's just gonna be a circus. We're just tossing them. And I love the way it looks, dude. It looks so ridiculous. These guys are just hanging. You'll notice, there you go. I needed a little health. You're gonna top me up, basically. This is much quicker than trying to kill all of these enemies normally. So we run over here. We've got more enemies. You cannot grab captain's enemies, so we're not even going to try. But we are going to use the gem cutter. And I didn't do it. I didn't do the steps to hell. I almost always do that because it looks so amazing. So these explosives that the enemies are shooting, those are useful if they can damage enemies, your foes. Super useful. I should have done the heavy strike finisher there instead of the normal death stomp. You can stomp on dudes if they are sort of unconscious on the ground, or if they're stunned or dazed on the ground. You can stomp them out, which is super funny to watch. So this is really expedient. I think I roll away so that this guy takes a bunch of damage. Yeah. So just really useful. Oh, do I do it this time? Hell yeah, I do. I love the steps to hell. Look at that, carved him right in half. Looks so great. I thought I could get a second parry. Parrying the captains, I'm just not used to it. I did a little better there, but I don't think I parry many captains for the rest of the game, actually. And now we've got Bone Cleaver. So, another thing that he's like, oh, this is no rope-soaked pirate you face. And he says that he's brought the Black Death to this area. So when I was playing this game, I had no idea what the Black Death was. I was like, it kind of tells you, it's turning men into monsters. And I actually thought I was going to be fighting monsters. There's only one monster enemy in this game. It's a stupid little, like, flying lizard thing. It's so annoying. This move has no vertical hitbox, so you can just jump up with him and attack if you want. What you want to do here is you want to dodge to his right and do your most damaging combo. I think the light gets you more hits despite doing less damage. Or not less damage, but despite the heavy doing more, I think he blocks sooner. So here we go, we just jump. That was a tiny baby jump, we still didn't get hit. If you stay close, he won't do a specific move where he spins around until he gets to the second phase. So we just want to keep carving him up. I think, yeah, avoid that, it's unblockable. And you just want that move is blockable, but you just keep dodging around. Hopefully, you don't want them to be doing that much. And then, boom, level over. So, that is the first 2 or 3 levels of Conan. We're now going to be heading to... I actually don't know what this region is. He says that they're Stygians, and he's surprised, but we're going to talk about that in a bit. Yeah, okay, so here we are. We are in Stygia, and I am just checking to see how quickly I can get King's Execution. It's a super important move to the run, which you'll see in a bit. Lions, gotta be one of the most annoying enemies in the game. We avoid them at all costs, every time. They're just really annoying, and especially without a two-handed weapon right now. Yeah, really annoying. So you notice I have a new meter underneath my health that is called the Song of Death. The more enemies you hit in quick succession without getting hit back, you will get super meter, or you get your Song of Death meter will be refilled. So what we want to do here is chop through this and pick up our two-handed weapon. Typically when you start a level, you have access to specific weapons. What you see there is Conan targets enemies, which is really annoying. But yeah, if you want to do a specific thing, you have to, sometimes you end up targeting enemies. There's a lion in there, and we are going to get our second rune triumvirate. I'm on the fence about whether or not we actually need to get these, but this one is super close to, you know, we don't have to do too much to grab it, so I think it's more a safety one. We don't ever really take too much damage in this run, at least not enough to be super life-threatening. I'm picking up some extra runes here. I'm kind of like, that's more a gut feeling, like I need a few more runes, because right after this, you notice I check again, I'm trying to be very close. I know that I can probably get it in like this group of enemies and like maybe the next room. So we're gonna leave that guy. These doors are awesome. These doors are awesome because on the lift, on the second lift, just as you're about to go through the door, you are fully invincible. So if you can get those first two and then go into the third lift, boom, you're done. So this is supposed to be some grand building, some like grand entrance to whatever. This place, like, I don't know, all the environments are really uninspired in this game. They're just not that cool. That looks great. The double knock up. So we have to kill a lot of the enemies here, unfortunately, because they will stop us from... So I think I attempted here. So this dude comes out of nowhere, climbs the stairs, and whacks me. There was no getting around that. These guys just, they hunch down. But we do our best to sort of grind them up and move on. There's one guy up at the top there. I don't know really what he's up to. So you have to connect this side with the other, and that sort of creates some odd, I don't know, just finishes the lock. So we death stomp that guy, because a lot of times stunning these enemies isn't enough to actually, I think they recover quick enough to retaliate. So you gotta, it's just best to finish them off. But there we go. This is, like, that was actually really tight timing. You need 1,000 to unlock King's Execution. So yeah, we got pretty lucky there. The reason why I want King's Execution by this point is so that I can super easily take out 2 lions that you're forced to fight here. They're not super difficult enemies, but they have super armor, and it's much easier to like one-hit KO them using King's Execution. It's just like heads and tails faster, which is why we used it here. So a little weird camera stuff, but here we've got the store. So right there, you're completely invincible, which is awesome. The dragon is actually walking past on the right side at this point. You can actually throw enemies through those stained glass windows, which is pretty cool. I like that. This area coming up is like, there are all these enemies, and I'm pretty sure none of them messes with me. They attempt to, and there's a lion that comes out of that little hole. But we are, most of the time, I remain fairly unmolested by these guys, in most cases. And then you get some super wonky clipping here. So this, if you notice, the pillar is like halfway in the wall, which is why I always have to do a little pause there, because it's difficult from the perspective to whether or not you're going to bonk into the wall, fall off, stuff like that. It costs you time. Dodging past all these enemies, again, making use of the fact that we're totally invincible when that happens. We want to avoid all these enemies, pull this bad boy down, and then when the water comes out, sand, I actually don't know what, I think it's supposed to be water. Terrible graphics. those guys can hit you. So Conan actually has to like stop, look up, and the water I think has to be flowing down before you're able to actually trigger that. This next part is actually kind of fun. It's a skip. It's a cycle skip on some water. Because I get hit multiple times here, we lose the first cycle, so we don't actually, I think we save time because we're doing it, but because I get hit so many times there, we actually miss the first cycle. So typically we would be we wouldn't have had to go back. Typically we would be able to get up there, but here I'll show you what I mean by a cycle skip. We do this, we wait for this water, and we don't have to wait at water spout number 2. We can actually just go a little, we can just go right past it. That's actually a fairly, it's not hard, but you don't want to land in the middle of that block. You want to land on the far right side, otherwise Conan will just throw himself into the abyss. This cat is in our way, and now we are fully invincible. There's another little optimization coming up here. So you have to stand on these plates for half a second. They depress, and then you kind of roll off and boom. So you want to just, instead of having to go around, you just jump on that as it comes up. It's a little bit difficult if you wait just a second too long. That, for whatever reason, the hitbox on it is really weird, so you can't really get on top of it. And here we go. We are at what is basically the boss now. So we're gonna jump past this water. We're gonna have one more tiger head to pull down. Reminds me of the Chamber of Secrets in Disney's Aladdin. That's what that room reminds me of. Cool. I want to avoid these dudes. I think that this guy bops me, so if you check it out. And then you have to do it again. So it's open. So this actually causes me, like, gosh, I don't know, costs me like a minute. It looks like you can't mess with it anymore, and I think the programmers knew that you still had to be able to mess with those things. I thought that was going to be a soft lock and I'd have to reset, because I'd never seen the mouth open like that before, but it turns out it just snaps shut when you activate it again. There's another thing like that that cost me over a minute at the end of my run, which is really unfortunate and kept me from getting it under 2 hours. Cool, so now we're on to the dragon boss. This is the sand dragon. This has to be, the first time you play it, this has to be the most annoying level. This has to be the most, it's the most tedious boss. Now that I speedrun this game, I think it's super fun. I have a ton of fun optimizing it, so you want to do that, and then you want to do King's Execution. That's literally like, that is perfect. That's a perfect stage 1. You're so fast that Conan yells about it being ugly as he's also screaming and falling through the sky, which I find hilarious. And that awkward weapon switch.
I've got to keep moving.
So you're running away from it, and that was, I think, that is literally like as fast as you can. That was like a perfect stage 1 dragon. So I feel it's pretty good about that. Here you want to land a King's Execution as its head comes up, so you chunk it to half life, and if you can, if you're fast enough, sometimes it will not be dumb like that, and that tongue, you can. So here I'm just getting impatient. I just like want to finish this boss because I know it's almost done. So yeah, that can go really easy. 2 King's Execution combos will take it out. Typically, if you hit it with a big strike at the beginning, it will be a little more annoying to fight. Here, you are sort of on a scripted, it is smashing through the windows behind you, looking for you, and you are taking out. Oh, if you notice here, I was doing the uppercut, and so I got some health refills. We're not going to need it. So you can actually like record hits there, but it doesn't do anything. Occasionally the boss will actually, between each phase, lose life. I'm not quite sure how that works or how it happens. So you dodge this, And you want to do this section in one cycle. He can run away. So I get lucky here. You actually, yeah, you can't dodge that. So what you want to do, it's really interesting. If you stand to the far right, it cannot hit you. Just a super neat little optimization. So that was slow 2 King's Execution combos again. We'll finish it, but I flubbed up and I was not far enough to the right. So we're climbing a pillar. Again, you want to do that last thing without getting him to run away. So that was another one cycle. That was pretty good. Not great, but not terrible. I've died so many times just throwing Conan off cliffs. Really annoying. So it's just like so. This boss fight is long and it's tedious if you don't know what you're doing. So I don't know why the boss has not a full life bar here. And I've seen it with just like a sliver off. I've seen it with a little more than this. I've seen that it's just weird. So typically I try to jump. You can actually avoid a lot of that. And check this out. Done. I think I really messed up here. I think I tried to throw my weapon on accident. So yeah, that was so lucky that I didn't actually throw it. And then as you can see, I'm trying to pick it up. So again, here, if you stand really far to the right, it cannot hit you. So you want to do that again. So literally, like, this fight is so annoying if you don't know what you're doing. But all it takes is 2 King's Execution combos on this specific section, and the fight is over. So that was actually, like, that was a great Sand Tomb, I believe that's what that level's called. So now we're on a Tribal Warrior. This level is a lot about running away. We also get our first armor power. So instead of calling it magic, they call it armor power. I don't know why. But it's called Stone Prison, and it's really useful until we get Rain of Fire, I believe is the second ability. But essentially, so we've got some lions. Essentially, you throw out a burst on like a cone of magic in front of you, and it freezes all your enemies. It turns them all into stone. And yeah, it's just super useful. Freezes them in place, stops them from hitting doors, allows you to shatter them with a lot. It's just a lot easier. Here we're gonna run past all these enemies, and this is our first introduction to flames. They allow us to burn things, including enemies, so you can light enemies on fire, just like Akana did earlier with her fire arrows. Those rocks and Conan's throwing can be really wonky, so I typically try to get a little bit closer. I could probably throw it from farther away. And here we're introduced to a sword and shield enemy. We don't really need to fight these dudes, so we're just going to run past here. I was just trying to skip the cutscene, which is why I jumped. In this area, there's also a Song of Death Rune Triumvirate that we are going to avoid. You can light all these little huts on fire, and there's some secrets in there. There's some red rune chests, and then yeah, pieces of the Rune Triumvirate. So we're gonna light all that stuff on fire, and we just have to wait for it to burn. Fairly easy. You can light all of these little huts on fire, so you get health, you get armor power-ups, you get red runes, but we don't need any of that because we want to go fast. So we're going to light this guy on fire, light his little stand on fire, and then we're going to push. So this is a time where I got really lucky here. Typically these guys will, like, everybody in the area will, like, overflow. But because Conan moves pretty quickly, you can usually get this. If not, you stone prison all those guys. You just shoot a stone prison behind you, and you can stop all those guys. So that was actually a really lucky door there. That usually does not go that smoothly. We ignore all lions. Here, doesn't look like I can jump up there. I actually thought you could grab there. And here we just, like, we're almost at the end of the level. We avoid all of these enemies. I think we might throw this at somebody and light them on fire. But it's a lot of avoiding enemies. We pick up this giant stone. I actually didn't mean to light that thing on fire. You don't need to do that. And again, getting pretty close to these barriers because Conan just, he can do some weird things. And if you miss that rock there and it breaks on the wall, I did that just for fun, you have to go all the way back up that wall that I had jumped off of, knock one of those elephant towers over, and then the head will break off and you can throw the head. Fun fact, none of these arrows will ever hit you, which is nice. And then you are completely invincible while doing this rock QuickTime event, which will come in really useful fairly soon. So this is, I think, one of the longest levels in the game outside of the very final mission. We have some breasts here. Conan, being the gentleman, frees this lady.
They're killing the women up there.
Turns out there are women being held, and we're after Akana, so we're gonna go forward. Again, trying to move the cutscene forward a little faster.
You're too late,
So
barbarian.
here we have
You're
to
taking her into the mountain. Your guts
raise
shall hang from my
these
sword.
wind
There's the entrance.
turbine things to raise these three things. I don't know, these three giant stone landings, and then we can get to the far entrance that you saw there. So I always feel bad leaving all these ladies behind, but
Don't leave me here to die.
sorry lady, we gotta go fast.
These towers harness
Um,
the wind.
Also, one thing that I try to do here that you should always be doing is I'm going to try to roll, and I'm going to try to immediately hit R1, because you want Conan, like, he moves way faster when he is basically, like, zipping to the interactable than he does while walking. So you want to hit R1 to trigger an interactable as far away from said interactable as possible. That way you just save fractions of a second. Instead of walking, you're zipping basically and snapping onto that interactable.
The second tower is
Here,
ready
try to sort of manipulate this guy here to not hit us. It's annoying. It almost never works. He always comes after us. So here we have to fight some guys. I want to save Stone Prison because armor magic drops are so finicky. Here I was trying to get away from that text box. The armor magic drops are so finicky that it's just really difficult to guess what you're going to get from fallen enemies, and there aren't a ton of pickups when you need them. So I typically try to reserve, keep the magic that I have. We do that here so that we don't have to do it later when we depress the third circle. And again, so you're gonna see me that there's some weird slowdown there. And then I tried to hit R1 and then hit B, and B is sort of that big punch, but I just mistimed that, so I got to be better about that. So you roll and then you try to. I did it again. So you notice how Conan kind of snaps to the chain. You want to be able to do that as far away as possible. There we go. We jump past everybody. And we actually don't want to see if you notice, there's a bunch of people waiting for us right there. We only have to deal with 3 or 4 enemies the first time, but if you try to knock down that thing to get the giant stone to break the barrier, you have to deal with, I think, 7 or so, and it's much more difficult than it should be.
Face me.
So we want to dodge all these arrows, and again, let's see if I get the. So there was a little snap there. There was a little snap. Not great. You typically want to try to roll through each. There he goes. There's a snap. So I basically went directly from that roll, and I didn't have to run at all. And then this part, we can kind of do whatever we want because it takes a little while for these landings to raise up onto the ground. So we can mess with some dudes. We can chop them up. King's X, and of course, like now I'm getting a bunch of magic, some armor power. Boop. So a bunch of dudes come out of this door, and this is another door where you can get that third push invincibility.
Get out of my way.
But it's so dang hard to do here. So let's see. What do I do? Cool. So basically what you saw there is I stone imprisoned a fudge ton of enemies, and they weren't able to attack me. So that was my PB for that. That 7:35 is as fast as I'd ever gone. I think my previous best time was, um, I think 8 minutes. So that was a 25-second save, and that was because of that door. That door earlier when um, I had to push it apart basically to open it. Push those two things, those levers. I don't know.
He's
Um,
come for her.
that was a giant time save, as was that clutch stone prison right there. So this is, we are introduced to what is the most annoying enemy in the game, the red apes. So if you read any Conan books, he ends up fighting ape-like creatures all the time. And this is sort of their nod to that. They have 3 attacks. They have sort of an arm sweep. They have a giant slam, and then they have this weird chest beating thing. I think you'll see it unless, like, if you're trying to use any weapon without range, without like, you just cannot hit them. They move
Conan.
to face you, and then if you attempt to attack them, they will just begin beating on you. It's such a frustrating fight unless you have access to King's Execution, in which you can just grind them up. So here we have to rescue Akana. We really want this guy's two-handed weapon. That's super useful for us. It's literally the best thing in the game. And then we're gonna chop these guys up, and then we have to fight two gorillas. So the easiest way to take these guys out is 2 King's Executions, rolling to cancel the. So that's actually great. We want them to do that. You get a King's Execution, and then you take them out. This is actually, like, these are really good fights. Those guys can be giant pains in the butts, but they weren't. So we cancel that cutscene, just hitting A, and we're moving on. We actually don't have to fight any more enemies until the final boss. So you'll see we just are chopping these things. We have apes sort of coming at us, but we can, use these interactables super quickly and avoid all the enemies. So there's a weird camera snap there that forces you to go backwards. I always think I'm prepared for it, and I never am. So apes are coming out of the walls. They've been just hanging out there for hundreds of years, maybe just a few minutes waiting for you. And the next boss, so this is also where we can get, so we got the health triumvirate. That one, again, also doesn't take a ton of time to get. It's more a safety thing. I don't think I need it, and I'll probably try to do a run without getting any and see if I can finish it. But there's a magic triumvirate here, our first magic triumvirate. It takes forever. It's like a really long one. You have to sort of run all over this level, and it's not worth it. Here I abuse the invincibility. I mess up that thing, but here we're just gonna do it. This ape might have attacked me otherwise, but again, the full invincibility is just super nice. So here we go. All we have to do is pull this chain, and that is the door to the boss. This boss fight actually goes really, really well. It's fairly random what its moves are. You'll see what it is, but it's a fairly random boss, and there's nothing you can do outside of just like well-timed the raving ape. Nothing you can do really outside of using the correct moves. King's Execution again is a lifesaver here. It does absurd amounts of damage. I think it does half of the boss's life. So we have Conan being like, Kana, what? Classic woman. Classic woman getting captured. Sacrificed to an elephant demon god. So this is actually like a boss that I could see Conan fighting. So look at that. So that was 1 King's Execution, and it finished the boss. That's crazy. So this part is weird. The boss stomps and then it breaks that barrier. Here what I'm trying to do is I actually try to optimize. I try to swing and then roll off because it means there's less time to run, or more time to spend running, because you can get stuck up on that pillar and then are forced to run down. If you roll back off, you just save yourself a second or two. But that time I added a second or two, trying to be clever. So here we try to get we try to get another good King's Execution. We miss completely. And I think we don't even bother we just try an uppercut that time. So the annoying thing about King's Execution is you start off with a heavy attack. Great thing is it's a block breaker, but so here you'll see I do the thing I want to do. I roll off the pillar. So it's a low, like mid hitting break attack, and it goes under a lot of, like, it goes under the trunk of the elephant here, which is unfortunate. There is another variation of this, but I believe, yeah, it's XXBY, so you essentially hit, so we want that. We want that because it'll allow us for a super easy King's Execution. And we want to avoid this. That is super hard to avoid. It's crazy random, and it knocks you super high up in the air. I think it happens to me a couple of times. So here it is again. Super annoying. We try to get off another King's Execution. So like right now, the fight is going super well. Like this is probably one of the fastest elephant demons that I've ever had up to this point. And then he lands 2 of these really frickin'... So, oh, that's another thing. Great execution. We avoid that, and then we miss completely. We whiff. Oh. So here he goes. Boom. You can't avoid that if you're underneath him. It's impossible. I think he does it again. Oh no, nice. What was I gonna say? Forget. So there you go. That is the Elephant Demon. That is something I could absolutely see Conan fighting in the Robert E. Howard novels. Cool, so that I think was 2 seconds slower than my PB on the elephant for that level. This is the shortest level of the game, and it might be my favorite because there's so many like little optimizations you can do here to make it faster. And there's one part that if you get it, it's fairly tricky. You save roughly 25 seconds, roughly, half a minute. So again, you don't want to climb up that. You never want to climb up things. So here I am trying to make sure I'm not climbing up. This jump is much harder than it looks. Otherwise, if you don't land at the top trigger point, you have to climb up. You have to sort of mash B, which you probably have seen me doing, and that's much harder to do than it looks. So you never have to worry about these rocks. They will almost never hurt you. Again, we're getting close in throwing because I've broken those rocks so many times, and that was a good snap. Just less walking, snapped right to the chain. This part it took me a while to optimize this, but basically you have to pull a chain over there, and the fastest way to do it is to knock this guy out, parry him, take his weapon. You don't actually need to take his weapon. Grab this particular barrel and throw it at that dude. He will follow you and he will hit you as he does the chain. If you take too long to take out either of those 2 guys, people will start streaming out of tents. They'll start attacking you. It's really annoying. So that's like the easiest way to do it that I've found, because you want to conserve your magic. You could stone prison them, but we got a new power. It's called Rain of Fire, I think. I'm not actually sure what it's called. But here we're trying to light these boats on fire, and they have these cargo holds and these chunks of cargo that we need to light on fire. So there are 3 on this ship, and there are 4 on the next. and we need our magic power. This rain of fire. You are completely invincible when you cast it, and that was really good movement on my part. Didn't get hit by any enemies. The problem is now we're left with our sword, and yeah, that's it. Just a sword and flame. I actually got the heavy strike finisher. It's in case I mess up the skip here. It's really useful to have because you end up fighting a bunch of enemies. This is the best way to do this. Just take these dudes out. That can be a really annoying fight. So again, I grab. So you don't actually need that if you land the skip. You don't need to really fight anybody. But because it's really difficult to land. It's just for safety. Here, there's a cutscene that plays as you get a new captain enemy, and you can skip it and just run through that door. The door is actually supposed to close, and you're supposed to fight all those enemies there. We say no. This is the skip. So this door closes super fast. If you jump here and roll, boom. You're not supposed to be able to make that, I don't think. Like, they just didn't think you'd be able to make it. And when that happens, so you're not able to pick up the fire that's on the other side of that door. Before you go through, you typically want to grab the fire. So here you have to come up here and grab one of these fires. And it hasn't loaded this area yet. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why that is. So here you cast Rain of Fire because there's a captain enemy behind you. And a ton of other enemies that are out for your blood. And this door takes 3 kicks. Whoop. Also, the camera gets really wonky there. This is really fun and something that I found. There's this cargo hold. We want to break this for the next level, but you can also hit the cargo hold on the other side of the ship through that wall. So it was super fast. You probably didn't see it, but if you look on the right side, there's fire coming through the wall. That's because we lit... You're supposed to do that same whole thing where you kick the door open on the other side of the ship, but because we were able to light the thing on fire from this side, we don't have to do that. That's the fastest I've ever done that level. That was a PB that felt really good. The reason that we stopped to get that magic, to get the armor power, is for this level here, is for the very beginning of this level. It's another good example of like when you want to use Stone Prison to stop enemies from hitting you as you go through a door. So there's 4 sword and shield enemies up here, and they don't always trigger like this. Most of the time, the guy that was on the right, closest to the door, he, for whatever reason, just like never gets aggroed. So that was actually pretty decent. Not great. The cone for the stone armor is really wonky. It feels fairly inconsistent, and like this is like 50-50 that this guy attacks you or not. So here we get a little, and we just want to grind these guys up because I feel like once one guy attacks you, the rest will follow, and then we were able to get this over without any of these guys messing around with us. But we do get hit twice more. Cool. So we're moving on. That was actually pretty decent. It wasn't great. I've been able to get through that door unmolested and knock that pillar over unmolested, which is a great time save. Again, these things are totally useless, and we never actually need to fight them. There's a little time save here where you can avoid jumping. You can jump straight up as opposed to jumping that handhold on the left. So that was cool that I hit that. You gotta take like a tick and just point Conan up. Again, want to avoid all these enemies, and there's a ton of enemies. This is like the perfect time to use Rain of Fire, and I think that's sort of its intended use, to show you how powerful it is. You can basically get rid of all those guys, but we don't need to. The invincibility is helpful. We got rid of this guy. We got rid of our two-handed weapon, but we always want two-handed weapons. And we were able to get some nice parries here. A little slow. Flexing on him with the King's Execution. Boom, right in half. Watch his innards. Just Boom, and we've got the Song of Death. So Song of Death increases the damage that you do fairly significantly. Here I'm just like going crazy. And that green slime that green dust that they shoot out of their shields, it reverses all of your controls. It's really annoying. So we just stone prison these guys. We're actually going to be collecting one magic triumvirate, one armor power triumvirate, fairly soon. So we're gonna do that. So that's why I don't feel too bad about using a bunch of magic here. Here we've got a stone prison. We don't need it for this, but we want to. We want to get this guy. We want to get that captain away from this door. Oh, we don't want to save any of these ladies, but we do want to chop all these guys up. I should have stone prisoned here. I should have like looked for a good angle for a stone prison. Instead, I like start rolling all over the place, and I lose more than a few seconds. Just kind of look at all this. I'm just like zipping around. Here I just knock this guy because I know that I can open the door before he recovers. I didn't want to just go through the time, take the time to kill him. So here I want to use a stone prison. I don't do this optimally. I want one of these guys to like fall off. I want to be able to get both those archers, and I want the archer there to block, to basically like rock block all the rest of these guys. So I think I end up chopping this guy up because he's so annoying. So like that wasn't optimal at all. This is where we get our magic triumvirate. Getting a triumvirate, it it increases your magic by 1, gives you 1 more use, and it also refills your meter all the way up. So we want to avoid those guys, and we also like I thought I could get this in. Like look at that, and then it straightens right back up. It's so annoying. But here we cast Rain of Fire. There we go. So we cast Rain of Fire, and it basically provides all the invincibility, all of the damage we need to stay safe. I get this health here. I don't need it. I don't know why I did this. You are almost always like there was no way I was gonna die. Time save here that I miss. You're usually able to jump up to that second handhold as opposed to landing on the first one. And then I get some armor magic there, so I can use Rain of Fire on the boss in the boss fight. So that was actually a tiny optimization. Instead of jumping down, running, and then climbing up, I was able to climb up just from that straight jump. This part was really annoying. This right here, I get clipped by that guy, I roll into that, and then I get magicked. So I'm running around and I get magicked again. So I finally get my controls right. Ugh, so annoying, the reversing of controls. And we're coming up on our boss. Her name is Chimera. She's very ugly and super easy once you know how to do it. Like, so easy. And King's Execution is all you need. So here, there's a bunch of enemies. We would just want to kind of draw them close and then use Rain of Fire to clear them all out. The sword enemies take 3, like they will die in the fast strike combo, so the 3 light attacks combo. And then these guys, the ones with the spears, they will die in a uppercut combo. So that will take those guys out, and then the guys with spears will be uppercuts. So I've been trying to sort of optimize using the right combo to take them out in one string. Oof. So here's Chimera. The positioning and placement of Conan, so he's like facing to the right from where he was standing, but her like stone tub of goo that she's living in is in front of him. So I don't know why he turned. It's just weird. It's just weird.
She will learn only of your
It's true.
death.
You are no problem whatsoever. So here, all you have to do is King's Execution. So essentially, she always attacks does that 3-hit attack. You do the first 2 strikes of King's Execution. You roll through her final strike. So you roll through this, and you bop her again. If you do that correctly, you always get a King's Execution, a free King's Execution afterwards. It's amazing. You take off a third to 3/4 of her health in like one combo or one string. It's amazing. So you notice here I try to optimize, if you can tell there's like different colorings. So I know that dude takes an uppercut to kill, that dude takes an uppercut, that dude takes an uppercut. And here she is, she's back up in her thing, and she's blasting you with lasers. These guys all take the fast strike finisher to take out. So that was actually really well optimized. You get a free King's Execution here as she comes down. So you want to do this. Boom, free. You can parry that for a ton of damage. And then here I just try to end with a... Try to end with something quicker. She's going to resurrect her guys one more time, but now she starts shooting her lasers a little more quickly, and you can get caught in multiple blasts, you know, as they move across the floor. Yeah, you can get hit in multiples, and these guys also now, in their sort of revenant state, they have kind of super armor when they attack. It can be really, so like that. So they can blow through a lot of your attacks. It seems fairly random when that happens, but it does, and it can be very frustrating. So we want to avoid all those dudes. We've got the Song of Death, so our abilities are a little powered up, and we're just gonna take that guy out. If you kill the final enemy too close to where Chimera is, you will get spawned in the goo right there, and you will lose a shit ton of health. This is actually perfect. That part's way more annoying than it looks. The surfaces are really uneven, and so Conan doesn't have good jumping ability on those angled surfaces. So that was actually perfect. So much of this game is just like, if I had to use one word, it would just be like sloppy. Just like the bosses are like, there's some weird boss things there, like the angles on that. A lot of that cinematic sort of cutscene just felt off. Bone cleavers felt off. The enemies don't feel good. There's a lot of random visual glitches. Like Chimera can just stands straight up, just blasting stuff into the sky before she resurrects her warriors. Some weird stuff. But I haven't been able to find any game-breaking stuff that allows me to go faster, really. This part, we are on an island. I think this is called like Death Island or something like that. It's totally not, but it has one of the most annoying parts of the game. But I think we'll here's some lizards, and I think that's gonna be it for now. And when I said from now, I actually just meant because I was gonna stop recording for the day. Boom, time lost right there. All I had to do was wait for like a second, and for whatever reason, I totally forgot. I think I was thinking about how good this run was turning out as a first legit speedrun attempt as a recording. Here, you literally just navigate sort of this platforming aspect, something that this game does not do well. Conan doesn't grapple onto things as often as he should, or as reliably as he should. There are just a ton of issues with a lot of the platforming aspects. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often, but it happens especially in a couple of stages, in the spirit stages later in the game, when you're sort of coming to the end. This level's really frustrating. Only in 2 parts. This part that I'm going to be doing here, it's a reason why I actually have all this magic. Well, that's not why, but why we have it on, why we're not going to try out the new move we got. I think it's the Storm of Crows. It's not that useful. So we want to twist this ballista, turn this ballista, and then we want to use Rain of Fire, and we want to basically use the invincibility, the death of all those soldiers, to crank this fully and shoot it. These guys are so freaking tenacious. They attack without, and there's tons of them. There's tons. So I was really miffed by that. So I suddenly have like a two-hand or a one-handed weapon, which sucks. So I keep getting bopped by these guys. I can't pick up my sword because it's right in this weird area where if I hit R1 to pick it up, I grab the ballista. So we quickly launch it, and then I have to stand fairly far away to pick it up. So ideally, you do all of that in the span of one Rain of Fire. Fairly difficult to do. These are the most annoying enemies in the game. These shield guys. So if you look, if you hit an attack button, they will pop their shields up, and their shields are actually covered in spikes. And that is bad. Obviously, that's bad. So you take damage when you hit them when they have the spikes up. They also have a ton of health. They're hard to knock down, so you can't finish them with a quick heavy strike when they're on the ground. Here you can see I'm kind of just optimizing, trying to jump into the next level as I go through. So then I missed that one. Up here, we kind of want to avoid a bunch of these enemies, and we want to get up to this interactable, and we want to push it twice without getting messed with. Unfortunately, that does not happen here. Of course, the enemies mess with us, and boom, we're stuck in a giant field of enemies. So it's always worth attempting because the time saved is huge. You would only have to run over to this side and then back to the middle. Instead, you have to run all the way back as the guys are attacking you. They're running to wherever you are and do it again. So this is super unoptimal or suboptimal. You want to be able to do this. Then we cast Rain of Fire again. This essentially guards us opening the door. You can always save a little magic power by using Stone Prison, but again, it's fairly inconsistent, and there were a ton of enemies spread out in that area. Here we have to, again, ignoring a ton of enemies, here we have to pull a statue down. I'm trying to get the Stygian Skewer. So this is actually a useful move in that it oftentimes will yield blue runes, which is really useful for filling up our armor. I always go to the right side. So there's actually two chains that you can pull and break to drop that chandelier. One of them doesn't do anything. It's basically a fake, and it can switch between the two, the right side and the left side. I always go right side first. I tend to have more success. But again, that's like a giant chunk of time that's fairly random that you can lose just randomly. We can run past all these enemies. It's awesome because these shield enemies are nightmares to deal with, and really luckily we did not get hit by that shield bash there. The rest of this level is a lot of, we're almost done. We need to avoid one more enemy, a giant captain. We actually try to lure him to the left and away from the door. If you try to open the door while he's close to it, you'll just get chopped up. Boom, we're invincible, doesn't matter what he does, and we kick down this door. Sexy lady, but we don't need to see her, we're trying to go fast. So I think my fastest Argos, that level, I think it's called Death Island or something like that, but I think it's like 4:45 or something like that. So that was a fairly that was like with perfect soldier RNG and the perfect Rain of Fire on that first ballista, which is the biggest time save. I'm able to hit that interactable twice without getting chopped in the second area. So now we have this terrible boss fight with a giant Kraken worm. Just a giant Kraken. Big ol' squid. This is a silly level. Basically, the thing I want to do here is I want to get a two-handed weapon. I also want to get this armor power. So this had never happened before. This tentacle actually broke the armor rune, the armor power holder. That's why I keep going back, because I'm like, oh, like I'd never seen that guy just committed suicide. Also, these crewmates, these crewmen, they do nothing. They do not attack the tentacles. All they do is point and run around. It's incredible. Like, they didn't even try to have them do anything. Essentially, what you want to do for this part is you want to stand right in the middle, right where the mast is. That way you have sort of equal access to all of the tentacles. This is a 3-stage boss. 4 stages, excuse me. Again, just kind of like tedious. You bop these, then the second one, the tentacles come down and they get these guys and they cover them in ink, turning them into enemies. Which is interesting because they are really frustrating to deal with, and on the last level, in the last level of the game, they can be remarkably frustrating. Cool, so it's the first stage done. What you want to do is you always want to maneuver, make sure to chop the last tentacle super close to the mast, because that allows you to just finish that stage up much more quickly. Here's what I was talking about, so getting covered in ink and becoming a bad guy. So basically, a guy who's gonna cringe. That was weird. We want to save all these guys. The reason we want to save them is obviously because we're great heroes. Is that these enemies will attract Conan's attention when he's attacking tentacles. It will also attract their attention, his attention, while you're fighting the boss of the level. Cool. So, again, staying fairly close. What's really annoying about this, if you're playing it casually, is you don't realize that actually you can't move and the thing rips down the mast. So, for whatever reason, it shows you like this health bar on the mast, and you can't even, before you can even do anything, it gets down to like, 75%. You can't even do anything about it. It's really annoying. You can't even move Conan around as it's getting pulled. Cool, so actually we're like getting really great RNG here. We're getting a lot of enemies doing, we're getting a ton of tentacles quickly, and that's super useful. We also got a Song of Death, which never happens here, which is great. Unfortunately, we have that one little bit of health left. So this is kind of interesting. If you watch this again, look at how far it... Oh, so do you see how far it went down? It was down like half before I could even move Conan. So if you're maybe up at the top of the... over on the far left or right of the... Oh god, look at this thing. It doesn't even make any noise. Ugh, so silly. So the first thing it does is it blasts ink. What you want to do, this fight can be over super fast. A couple of King's executions, literally half of its life gone. This wasn't too bad. And then it begins attacking. We want to do this fairly... So that's what I mean by... So we were going to attack the boss, but instead, it doesn't recognize the boss. It prioritizes the ink enemies over the boss. And it's really frustrating because you can be going for the final hit on a King's Execution, and Conan will literally do a 180 to hit an ink enemy instead of this boss. Oh, it's so frustrating. So I think you can finish this mission in 420, something like that. But because I'm now trying to get those 2 magic refills, those magic containers, armor power containers, look at him, he looks so happy, so pleased with himself. I bump up the time. Some cutscenes are skippable, others are not. Clearly that annoying carving up the Kraken was worth just silly. Okay, so this is a long-ish level, and it requires there's some really annoying portions, and I think I can probably use some more optimizing and routing to make sure that the magic usage is better. I basically save all of my magic for two specific parts where I have to fight a ton of shield enemies, because otherwise those fights take forever. Here, again, we're just dodging enemies. We don't care about them. Par for the course in this Conan game.
Run for your lives!
Um,
Shoot him! That
and
statue may
as I
help.
mentioned before, the magic drops are they're so infrequent, they're so
It's him. We will hold.
unreliable. So what we want to do here is we want to pick, so you got to put out this water,
I need to put out that
or excuse me, put out this fire using this water. So they do not always break. Like the rocks, Conan will not always throw them at the thing you want him to throw them at, so they will not always hit this flame. Other times, they will hit enemies. Also, these pots actually refill once you move past a certain trigger point, and it takes 3 successful shots to put out this fire.
Civilized
That can go
men
way
never
worse.
learn.
Those guys can swarm you, they can be really annoying because you're trying to do a thing you want to do. Here, we jumped the gun there. We did not, because now we have to shield enemy to deal with. The ox carts, or whatever they are, they're really useful because they are one-hit KOs on every enemy that you will end up fighting. So this is, I don't think I ended up optimizing this. So basically what you want to do is you want to wait for them to finish their attack, and sort of like you have a few seconds afterwards to, like, just wait until they're done. Then you can knock them into the air with a combo and finish them off. So those guys take forever. You saw how much damage, how many times I hit them. It's a really frustrating enemy to fight. There are 2 portions where you have to fight 2 guys and 2 normal enemies all at once, and then there's another time where you have to fight 5 of them, I believe, and a captain, and so we save Rain of Fire for those instances. Here we have a bunch of enemies, so what I try to do, and 2 lions come out, of course. So what we try to do here is, you see that cart, we try to get as many enemies as we can, so there's now 4 shield enemies, 2 lions, a captain, and a couple of, like, grunts. I'm just trying to get as many enemies as I can in the path of this cart, so that when I run back and try to shoot the cart forward, we kill as many enemies with a one-hit KO as possible. So I think I got 5, both lions, one of the shield dudes, so I didn't wait long enough there. The captain, I'm basically just like now scrambling, trying to figure out how to do this. And I'm never close enough, so I can't hit that guy with the gem cutter. That's optimal. That's how you do that. You avoid the first strike. So you let him do that, and then, so I finally figured out what it is I want to do with these guys. Blop. These captains have a
Miserable life.
way to one-hit KO them. They need to hit you first. They need to knock you up in the air, and they'll sort of have a standard triggered quick time event that they do. I think I actually pull it off on this guy. I think he ends up hitting me. Yeah. So here we wait, and we actually one-hit KO him. If he actually catches you before his helmet is off, it's also a one-hit KO. But that was just sloppy on my part. We're making good use of awnings. Forgot where I was going for a second. And again, we have a bunch of carts. There's actually one over to the right that I never end up using. But how many enemies? I think I only got 1 there. So it's really important. Oh, these arrows explode when they're in you. So that is not ideal. Here we have a move called, I don't think I ended up getting it here, which is unfortunate. It's called the Stygian Skewer Swing, and it is a super useful attack for, essentially you impale a dude on your sword, and then you swing the living crap out of him, bumping into him, knocking him into other enemies. So it's really useful. This part is it's hard to do fast because you need to kill every enemy before Akana will burn the bramble that is blocking the way forward. So, as you notice, you may have noticed there, a guy sort of like appeared out of nowhere, um, and now but making sure to get rid of that guy is super cool. So I think I end up having to fight 2 more enemies. I'm kind of like waiting for Akana to do her thing, and then multiple other guys show up, which is frustrating. Dodge right into that guy. These enemies are killed fairly easily. All you need to do is the fast strike finisher, the 3 light attacks in a row, and they're done, which is awesome. So we've actually got and this is where we will be using all of our magic, because we don't need it for the boss. This bramble can burn one of 2 ways. It can burn, it's basically made up of 2 pieces of bramble. There's the one on the left and the one on the right. You really want the one on the left to burn first, because that will allow you to move on. You sometimes will not, it'll be the right side, and you actually can't jump up if it's the right side for whatever reason. It's a little bit bigger. So we want to get rid of these guys as soon as possible. So I'm kind of like running around making sure that everybody dies. Great. And then this never happens, but I get an amazing rain of fire here. I end up killing every enemy. So that's what? Yeah, that's 5 freaking shield dudes. It is so important to have rain of fire here. So important. So now Akana will take out this enemy. If you try to open this door, he will hit you. So you need Akana to take him out.
Stay away from the courthouse.
And now we're on to the final boss. I think if you're playing this game casually, this boss can be really frustrating. He does a ton of damage. He does really easy stuns. If you don't dodge correctly, he can murder your health bar. But we're going to show you how to take him out really quickly. So if you just run to if you just run counterclockwise, you will never have a problem. He will end up getting caught in either that swing, or he just does some weird stuff where he'll kind of glitch out. I end up not really taking use of that. It takes a lot longer to have him glitch out. And then here you can set up a full King's Execution combo on him right when that boom. And then you always want to dodge to his left when he's in this mode, when he's going to do a short swing of the flail. It's easier, you stay in closer and you can land your attacks faster. And that's it. So that was not a perfect fight. I ended up taking more damage than I probably should have, but that was a pretty decent fight. And you take out that lion first at the very beginning. Holy crap, that thing's annoying. So 803 is 1 second slower than my PB for that level, so not bad, but also not, I feel like I could have done that faster. That was amazing though, that 5 soldier kill with the Rain of Fire. Oh my god, that's such a time save. This level is mostly about avoiding enemies. The first part of it is. We've gotten our final ability, which you will never see because it takes up it uses 4 bars of our armor power. It essentially creates a black hole, and any enemy that is unfortunate enough to step into its radius gets sucked in and destroyed. It's pretty cool, but we can do much better with much less. Here I was going for it, but these enemies, oh my gosh, they're so annoying. They can attack you for so long, they just spin. Here I just used Rain of Fire. I want to get them away from me. I want to be able to just move forward. I thought maybe that guy was dead. He's not dead. I was going to go pick up his weapon. We always want our 2-handed weapons, so we have access to King's Execution. Here we can ignore all these enemies. More lions popping out of the woodwork. Not important. Skipping a cutscene. Trying not to jump because it feels like jumping is slower than running. There's a lady tied up. We're going to leave her to whatever her fate is.
What do we have here?
Because we gotta go fast. So I don't typically jump down because I've actually been killed by that falling rock. By this rock that I'm carrying right now. Also, none of these guys can catch up to you if you just walk. And I've never been hit when I'm walking, so that's really nice. You gotta weigh down this, and then you can move forward. Because there's a certain amount of time that is taken, and I actually wanted to conserve my magic. We ended up
Now let's see what we have.
like actually fighting these enemies. Not really the smartest move. I probably could have stone prisoned them. And I end up having to rain of fire. Ah, so annoying. So I cast Rain of Fire just to get all these guys out of my way, and then open the door. I think only 2 enemies show up, so I definitely should have stone prisoned them. I would have had enough. I would have had an extra piece, an extra bar of magic to take out all the enemies that will be coming in this next area. Again, a lot of this. I wonder if getting an extra magic triumvirate would be useful, but I just feel like the only other one takes so long to get.
More assassins.
It's not really worth it. So here we're just trying to take out these guys as fast as we can. Some apes drop down. The most annoying enemy. No, that's untrue. The whatchamacallit guys are the most annoying. But we can take them out with rocks. So that's useful. The apes aren't too bad, to be honest. You have to take out all of these enemies to get to unlock, to cause the other enemy to come out of that wall. Cool. So you may have noticed there's sort of like this inky blackness that's coming out of the walls and dripping down, so I couldn't get through there for whatever reason. That stuff hurts quite a bit. It is just like the muck around the elephant demon graveyard thing. So it's 1-2, 1-2, and then you can just jump in between. Fairly easy. Again, we want to ignore all of this stuff. There's going to be a bunch of enemies, apes coming out of the walls, down from the ceiling. We want to ignore them and just yank on these chains and open up to the next area. We leave them all behind. If you go up here, you can get a lady, but we are not in the interest of getting the ladies. We have all the moves we need, all the runes we need, and because I wanted to save this magic for another part, so this, oh god, this move is so freaking annoying. I actually was just like, nope, I am tired of these guys. For whatever reason, I don't end up King's Executioning this guy. It takes a lot longer. I think I just wanted to beat on him. Here, we can ignore all these guys, but he ends up breaking that wall when you take out the 2 enemies. The 2 great apes. 2 red apes. This part is the end of the level, and can either treat you really well or really poorly. Here we have another one of those fully invincible interactables, and being able to do this portion without getting attacked is incredible, and just saving your magic is really useful. Normally you'll have a swarm of enemies hitting you as you're trying to knock over the pillar, as per usual. So now we're actually back in Graven. I think it's Graven. Graven is a character from Champion from League of Legends. So Graven, we're back in his like citadel basically. We have to take out all of these stone enemies, which are much stronger than the beginning of the game. As you can see, that would have killed them in one shot. But instead, we have to do it a few times before they keel over. We also have to deal with a bunch of spirits that harass us at every turn. So this part can be fairly annoying. These enemies are pretty aggro. If you end up parrying them successfully, you can, and these others run away. So if you parry them, you can one-hit KO them. So I try to do that occasionally, but it's kind of annoying and fairly difficult to do. So I try to do it there, but it's just not worth it. Here we want to get as much magic as possible. It's really useful in this area. Rain of Fire destroys these stone enemies very quickly. So we want to be able to, because there are so many in this area, we want to do that quickly. Here I just feel like this sword is longer. I don't actually know what the hitbox or hurtbox looks like, but it looks longer, and so I usually pick it up. Oof, Song of Death, dang. So we're gonna ignore a fudge ton of enemies, and we're just gonna run. This part is really annoying, so I want this magic refill right here. But Conan has such weird strikes, and because he doesn't want to focus on destroying those, so he doesn't destroy them, and I parry kill there, all I want to do is open that Galdang armor thing, but it just will, like, the game just refuses to cooperate. Plus, now I've only got one weapon, so I've fudged that up. And then I start fighting enemies here because I'm so tilted by the fact that I don't have a two-handed weapon. I'm like, oh, I need to, like, destroy things. Not really. I don't need that at all for where I'm at in this level. So I waste a bunch of time here trying to kill these guys pointlessly, because all I actually need to do, which I realize, is this. I need to use this invincible bad boy to just move on with the level. So this part actually is probably one of the biggest time losses in this game, in this run. So you notice that I got hit by the enemy and the thing still happened. So I try to work this, I try to do this interactable here. This is actually what I was talking about at the beginning of the game. So you notice that I hit the thing and it looks like the thing happened. This is really annoying. So I end up dying here. So that, terrible. But I end up, you know, getting spawned right back here. I wonder if there's a death abuse we can abuse there. But we want some more magic, and then we want to do the same thing here. I actually thought that I ended up soft locking, because right at that point there's supposed to be a barrier, or excuse me, there's supposed to be a walkway made between that area in front of Conan and where I'm currently at. So I thought I'd soft locked. I hadn't saved at all throughout the game, and I was just like, oh crap, dude. And then of course I fall off again, so I'm like super tilted at this point. This is by far and away I want to say the longest Galdarn. I was like, oh, okay, we'll just like kill myself, I'll restart this area or something. I was really struggle bussing here, and then I was like, okay, you know what, we know that everything's pretty wonky. Interactables are pretty wonky in this game, so let's check. Let's see if we can do something here. And watch this. This is ridiculous. So I'm like, oh crap. It comes back? So I'm gonna get rid of these enemies, just in case something happens again. And oh, there it is. It comes out of nowhere. And then the thing falls down and we can do it. So, oh my god, what is that? How long was that? So annoying, dude. So that was probably the biggest time loss in this run, was that moment right there. I had never seen that before, where the thing just like doesn't do the thing. So yeah, just remarkably frustrating. You want to avoid that shockwave. It does tons of life, actually. Avoiding that is super useful. And I made the... Oh, I don't even pick it up. I think I've still got the short sword. I remember wanting to pick it up, but hitting R1 had me working the door. I get really lucky here. This spirit, whenever I break this chain and try to pull this wall, it almost always attacks me and stops me from doing it, and I end up having to kill it. So that was cool. Glad that happened. Here, you're gonna see, again, probably like, it doesn't happen often, but it's just one of the buggy things in this game. I try to cast Rain of Fire, and it bugs out and I get a sour rain of fire. So I get the animation, but nothing happens. There's nothing coming down, which is really annoying. So that could have been done much quicker right there. I would say that this part is probably like, and then I'm just like, no, it's not even worth it. This is definitely where my run starts to fall apart. I practice this area less just because it's further along. I didn't have a good save, but I'm saving up my magic still. We can get rid of these guys in basically one cast of Rain of Fire, but I'm being fairly conservative. This part is really annoying. You cannot control Conan very well. You'll notice like he kind of like jumps and hiccups, like right there. And so if you jump when you're trying to do that and you control him wonkily, you end up controlling him really wonky, and you can send him into the abyss and you have to do this whole part over again. Really annoying. So actually coming up to the last part of the game. I can't say this is even very difficult, but it can be frustrating. So what we have to do in this first part, and the final boss is a nightmare if you don't know what you're doing. It took me hours the first time I was playing it. I think I played it on hard, so I was taking a little more damage. The enemies had a little more life. What you have to do here is you actually have to kill every enemy in this area. So you want to get rid of these armors first. And then using, I don't know why I don't do it here. I think it's because I just unlocked it and I haven't used it a lot. But using the, what is the move called? It's called the Stygian Skewer Spin or something like that. I just unlocked it. And here I was testing to see if it was every enemy or just the armors. And so it's every enemy. Stygian Skewer Fling. Nope. I think I use it on this guy maybe. Boom. So then you just take this dude and you whack all the other guys. So this just softens them up and makes them easier to kill. Yeah, just really useful in general for taking dudes out. These ink enemies have weird armor where they can blow through some of your attacks but not others. It's fairly inconsistent. I probably could have used a Rain of Fire here to clear out all these enemies. They're close enough. I probably will end up doing that next time. Just because they can go ham. It's such a small area and it can be really annoying to fight them. And actually one of the cool things about this run that I didn't have too much problem with, if Conan is on a higher plane, on an angle, and he moves down, so if he's basically airborne for any amount of time, he will do a jumping attack as opposed to the attack that you were doing. So like he'll basically like he'll do a different attack. We haven't seen that much, which is great because it's super annoying when it happens. But it's super frustrating when it does. Super frustrating when it happens. We're trying to be fairly expedient about the death of all these enemies. We don't. I was gonna say we try to Stygian Skewer Flame. But we also need to kill every enemy in this area before the interactable war will happen for that guy. Really annoying enemy, zipping around so I can't hit him, and he cancels out my Song of Death. What the heck, dude? We got these inkies coming out of nowhere. And then we skip this dude. We're like, nah, we're not doing this fight. So this jump killed me 15 times, maybe the first time I did it. The depth perception on that is so bad that I had no idea when or where to jump. Now it's the second it starts going vertical, you just jump. Here, dude, just like Conan didn't grab on. So we lose a bunch of time. Luckily, we don't have to do all the fighting. We just have to run across that barrier. We don't have to run across that bridge. The impromptu bridge. Ugh, this is such an annoying time loss. So you jump here. Like, that is not at all obvious. That is not how that doesn't look like it should.
This place is bewitched.
So, I'm actually glad I'm watching this again and doing the voiceover for this run, because here, oh, you gotta jump then, and then he can grab it. I clearly hit it last time. This part is another giant time suck. I mess up pretty bad here, doing something that I didn't know was possible. I end up lagging the game crazy hard, and I don't even know how I did it. I believe it's like I make a menu purchase. So check this out. I know that this part is really annoying, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna cast Rain of Fire. I do this, I grab Mitra's hand, I come back, and the game slows the fuck down. Like, this has never happened to me before. So it's like, stuff is falling. I'm like, oh my god, what did I just do? Such crazy lag. Like, all the enemies are dying, but I'm stuck doing whatever. I'm like, oh god, did I mess up this run too? So like, I'm already like tilted enough from the previous area where I missed that jump. I messed up I messed up that interactable, or the interactable sort of disappeared, and now I'm like, I had done so many great little tricks at the beginning of the level, at the beginning of the run, and here I'm just like trying to get away from the stone stuff. Also, you notice I went up on that like brick, and because I like left the ground for half a second, it changed the attack I was doing. That's what I meant by like it being really annoying. Here, these spirits are they're not the most annoying enemy in the game. That definitely is reserved for the shield bros. But sweet Christmas, they can do a lot. They can do a bunch of damage. Here, I don't even want to use anything anymore. I'm just like worried about everything. And I want another giant slowdown. So what we're gonna do here is I cast again. I'm like, no, I refuse to play afraid. And then you have to kind of lift up a rock here and toss it into this wall. This wall is very tricky. You cannot throw it from like anywhere else besides directly in front of it. Otherwise, the rock breaks and you have to do a bunch of other crap. You have to go to the other side, kill that guy, kill the inky dudes that are waiting for you, then walk with a rock all the way over to that spot. Not super fun. This is one of the last, this is one of the last spots in the game. I don't think I like appropriately use my magic. These enemies are so freaking annoying that I should have cast more. You do not want to stone prison these dudes. When you stone prison them, sometimes they will disappear. Because they can kind of teleport around the level. If you do that, they sometimes will they will teleport and become invisible for much longer periods of time than they would normally. I gotta figure out a better way to kill these enemies. Specifically, I gotta figure out a better way to get rid of these guys are fairly easy. You just need to like do a good block. But killing so annoying. So I think this guy ends up dodging a crap ton. Yeah. So much dodging. You just basically have to wait. I gotta figure out a better way to kill these guys. They end up blocking the two most important attacks every time. So I think maybe Mitra's hand is a good move to use. Cool, so what I really want to do here is I want to kind of get these guys together and then cast Rain of Fire so that it gets all of them at once. Cool, so this is probably about good. I was a little worried I wasn't going to hit the guy on the far right, but we do end up bopping him from fairly far away, which is great. And this is basically endgame. We have these stairs to traverse, but that is about it. We're coming on the final boss. Again, more tricky, like platform-esque moments. There's a little health refill, we don't need that. We're tough, we're Conan. And here we go, so we are back where we were at the beginning of the game. But everything has changed. I don't know what was going on there. Okay, so Graven, if you have never played this game, can be really, really, really difficult. If you don't understand the strategy behind this fight. So typically, I think there's a couple of ways to do this. I haven't tested it out, but I remember the first time I played this game, the dual wield Black River Rage was really, really useful on Graven. Knowing how much damage King's Execution does is really, it just kind of solidifies it as the weapon to use. You can hit him with the final strike, King's Execution, and take off a giant wallop of his health. That is really important. It's really important. He also blocks a lot, but his blocking is fairly easy to manipulate, and you'll see me trying to do that a little bit later in the fight. I don't catch on as quickly as I probably should. So here he is talking about Conan and civilization and nah, man. Just let you listen to the monologue.
Liberates the savage within. Surely you understand this.
This blackness is your cure for civilization? I have no love for corrupt priests and their idols. But your way is worse by far.
Then you shall perish like the others.
God, can we just talk about how ridiculous he looks too?
Serve me for eternity in the abyss.
So what we want to do, so look at how much King's Execution takes. That's what, like a sixth of his life maybe? Maybe a little less? But there's some weird targeting issues I deal with here. So we want to block a lot. He does that 3-hit strike. And so I dial in the string too quickly. What we want to do is wait for half a second to input the final attack, and you'll end up clipping him. So he'll end up blocking, jump, and I still end up getting hit. So this is another multi-stage fight as well, and you cannot mash. Do not mash on the final hit. That trigger comes up so effing quickly that you'll end up getting hit. You want to run very quickly also counterclockwise right after you defeat him so you can get to this area. So watch this. You get a bunch of inky dudes, and then he ends up shooting out these tentacles. They reach all the way to the gear you're supposed to be turning. And they stop you from turning it. So I go too fast, and I get hit by one. These guys also stop the crap out of you. So you notice I'm like getting fairly low in life. I was like, dude, this has got to be like a deathless run. It wasn't deathless because I died multiple times to falls. I don't think those were my fault, really. I'd love to get a deathless run done. But here, basically, you want to attract all those, and I was too quick again. But I know that once I hit Graven, I get a big health refill for each stage. So each time you do this, a chunk of your magic is taken away. So we had lost, whatchamacallit, we had lost Stone Prison previously. And it's just the same thing. He gets a new attack string each stage, each So here we go. That's what you got to do. You trade hits with him, but your hit is so much stronger that it doesn't really matter. And then you just want to do a lot of blocking whenever he attacks. Or getting away. Getting out of the way of his stuff. So here you'll notice he blocks. Boom. We trade hits, but that's totally okay. And there I just dialed it in. So I need to optimize this fight better. There I stopped attacking because I was really worried that I would press an extra button and mess up this quick time event, which just it takes frickin' forever, dude. You get hit again, he's taken up to half life, you lose a giant chunk of life, and here you see me running really quickly over here so I can start turning the gear immediately when the interactable becomes available. This one I think I have to do three turns because that's just really quick. The tentacle comes out really quick. And now you can get hit while jumping. It's never actually an issue if you know what you're doing, but holy crap is it annoying, dude. Cool. So we jump this last one, and we keep going. So yeah, this one takes 3, because I know what's coming. I was playing it really safe. I probably could have twisted a little more, got a little further, but it all turns out just fine. I've actually never... This is one of the first times I was like, oh, I got bopped there twice. So you end up getting put in a fairly intense hit stun, and I was so worried those guys were going to hit us. But they stopped, which was, oh. They can just keep hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. I wonder if there's a use for that Crow Storm move. I've yet to find one. I wonder if there's a good use for it. I'll have to play some more. Not much happening here. Sorry, I was checking an email. He gets one new string that you'll see right here. Blah, blah. So the yellow strikes are block breaks. So if you get caught in those, and the reds are unblockable. I missed with that King's Execution. So annoying. Another quick time event. This game has many of them, playing off the God of War stuff. They are much less compelling. Very annoying. How our sword is doing any damage to a inky god, I will never know, but that is not important. So this is the most annoying stage. Inky guys come out of, like, they are never ending. You can normally there's 4 in the first couple stages. This one they are infinite. So they will come, the first 4 come out of from right around the gear, and then guys endlessly spawn, I think to a max of like 8 or so from around Graven. So I just playing it super safe. No reason, well, besides time, right? I just wasn't really confident, and you can get hit in like infinite hits done by these guys and get comboed to death. Never jump in this part. These guys will beat the living crap out of you, but here we go. This is the end of the game. There's one more quick time event, and time stops right when the final cutscene begins, right when the screen fades to black. Of course, they have to end on a cutscene, or excuse me, on a quick time event, but whatever, we're almost done. We're happy about that. I think I can get this run. This run is like a 2:03:58. I'm positive that I can get this run under 2 minutes. I think there's definitely 4 minutes to spare, so boom, time. And yeah, that is Conan. I hope you guys enjoyed, because I like this game, and I want to keep running it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and yeah, talk to you guys later. maybe for more runs.